Hi guys. A lot of students come to me and say that the formula for median that is shown in front of you, which is L plus n by 2 minus cumulative frequency previous into h by f, is very complicated to remember, and at times you get confused and you make mistakes. We will quickly see how to remember this formula and understand it logically so that you may not have to even remember this formula. Few things before we get into this short video of understanding this formula. We know all median is a measure of central tendency. As we go ahead, I will quickly take an example of a median. I have given you the formula of median right away here, and no need to memorize. Okay. The most important aspect that we need to know from median point of view is the cumulative frequency, right? What does cumulative frequency mean? Assume hypothetically I have drawn a table of marks. How many girls have obtained a particular class of marks? So 10 to 20 marks, there are 4 girls in that category. 20 to 30 marks, there are 7 girls, and 30 to 40, there are 2. When I say cumulative frequency, which means less than 20, how many girls are there? 4. But less than 30 would include 10 and 20 as well as 20 and 30, right? So that would essentially mean 4 plus 7 and 11. That's why we see here that we have mentioned 11 here. But if I were to say less than 40, that means it would include 10 to 20, 20 to 30 and 30 to 40. So essentially I would have all the girls starting from 4 plus 7 plus 2 is 13, right? And that 13 here, 4, 11 and 13 is nothing but cumulative frequency that I am talking about. Okay. N is the total number of girls that I am considering in this table, which is 13 girls that I am talking about, right? Okay, there are certain things that we need to remember from a formula point of view, which is L, which happens to be the lower limit of the class, right? Which means in this example, if we see, 20 happens to be the lower limit of the class, right? Assuming that the median happens to be in this class. How do we know which medians happen in this class? I will tell you that, not to worry. N is the number of girls, right? Which is the N is the number of frequency. CF is your cumulative frequency, right, which is 4, 11 and 13. H is the height of the interval. So H is nothing but difference between 30 and 20, and that is 10. That is called as the height of the interval. If this was 200 to 300, we would have said it as 100. Now what is the frequency? How many girls are there in this particular set of marks? There are 7, right? So hence we say the frequency of this class in particularly is 7. 10 to 20, the frequency is 4. I've just given you some examples here, not to get confused what this means, right? I will quickly go and take an example of median and tell you the quickest way to remember this formula. Now quickly taking this example here, that we said this exam had 500 marks, right? And this out of 500, 100 to 200 there were 2 boys. Between 200 to 300 marks there were 6 boys, and 300 to 400 there were 3 boys, and 400 to 500 there were 5 boys, right? And I have complaints that you always take girls, so I have selected boys in this example, right? And let's find cumulatively between 10 to 100 200 there were 2 boys, but between less than 300 there would definitely be 2 plus 6, which is 8 boys, right? And less than 400 would mean 100 to 200, 200 to 300 and 300 to 400, which would mean 6 plus 2 8 and 3 is 11. And less than 500 would mean 100 to 200, 200 to 300, 300 to 400 and 400 to 500 would essentially mean 16. This number in case of a cumulative frequency should always match with the total here, then you would know your answer is right. So how many boys are there in the class? Totally 16 in all, right? And we know for sure from first 2 boys definitely are between 100 to 200, and then there are 6 boys, 1 2 3 4 5 6, which is still the 8th boy. The score is between 200 to 300, and the next 3 boys, which is 9 10th 11, are between 300 to 400, and the rest 5 boys, which is 12 13 14 15th and 16th boy, is between 400 to 500 marks. Perfect. Now we need to find a median. So there are 16 boys, right? Which means essentially if I divide with 2, whatever is the number, whether it's 16, 15, 300, 301, 51, whatever it is, you just divide with 2 to find what is the 8th value, right? Now 8th value finding is difficult in this case. Why? Because now 8th value happens to be somewhere in this group, right? Look at this. The second value would come in which group? 10 to 100 to 200, and then the next 6, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but the eighth value, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you look at cumulative frequency, 8 is nothing but the eighth value, and they are interested in what is the value of the eighth boy in terms of marks that he got. Now, the beautiful thing here is we do not know all these six guys what marks did they score. Do we know? We don't have the data. For example, one boy scored 201, the other scored 230, the third scored 245. We don't know these marks, right? In the absence of that, you have to still find what is the value that the eighth student has got. Now, how do we find that value? Now, that's where the fun starts, right? And since you need to find the eighth value, what you need to understand is, okay, so the first class 100 to 200, right? You know for sure that this guy in the second guy will definitely not score more than 200. That's for sure because he lies in this group. But you know the third guy onwards, he will definitely score 200 or more than 200, right? That's for sure. And we need to find out the eighth guy. So the bare minimum guy and the eighth guy lies in this group, right? So that means this class, he lies in this class. So that means this eighth guy definitely at the minimum would score 200. That's for sure. We know this, right? Because this group is between 200 to 300. That is what we are confirmed about. Now what we have to find out the exact is the wrong word, but the approximate value of marks that this eighth boy has got. Beautiful. Now the first group ended at 2, right? Which means we need to find out what is the jump from that first group till 8th, right? So this is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. How many jumps do you have, right? If the second guy got over in this group at, which is the group that he got over 100 to 200, and this is done, right? This guy is done. He will not score more than 200. This group will start from here and he will score 200 or more, right? And that means how many jumps do you have from here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So you essentially have 6 jumps, right? And that's 6 jumps. Now I clearly told you if you have 6 jumps, that means you need to have 6 jumps. But what is the value of each jump, right? And we know why 6 jump, because we need to find the 8th value. Had they asked, had this been 6th value here, our jump would have been 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? And then we would have written 4 here and we would have still wanted to find out what is the value of each jump. Now what is jump, right? I'm telling you, statistician has said we do not know value of 6 students. So what hypothetically we said that the difference of class interval, which is 300 minus 200, is nothing but 100, and we say that this 100 has to be divided into 6 equal parts. And what is 100 divided by 6? I think it's roughly around 16.6 and 16.6 and 16.6, and we'll have 0.6, right? We'll have first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. This 16.6 will be given to 6 girls, right? Now, which means, how are we going to get this 16.6, right? The first girl gets 200 plus 16.6. The second girl gets 200 plus 16.6 plus 16.6, right? Because you have to add what the earlier girl had and add on top of it. Now, the third girl will get 16.6 3 times plus 200, right? Because that's how the 16.6 number will get split in 6 girls. So how many jumps? Each jump is worth 16.6 marks, right? Or 16.6 values. So that means we need to say that 100 divided by 6 is the value of each jump. So that means in this case, what is the value that the 8th girl got is nothing but the value happens to be 300. And that's the reason why if you put that in formula and you say median is equal to L plus n by 2 minus cumulative frequency of the previous one into H by F. And now when you try to put values here, you know the bare minimum marks he will get is 200 plus, I'm sorry if I've interchanged boys and girls, but essence remains the same, right? It's a student. So n by 2 happens to be 16 by 2, which is 8 minus the previous cumulative frequency, which happens to be 2. And so hence I mentioned 2, and you can clearly see that we mentioned here 6 into what is the height of the interval, which happens to be 100, and what is the frequency that we are talking about. How many girls exist in that group is 6, and that's why we say 100 by 6. I hope you understood it, how to remember this formula and what is the logic behind this formula, rather than getting crazy in order to remember this formula.